Hi, it's Destro 7000 here. I want to vlog, but I can't vlog. So many things bothering me, and my self-expression feels suppressed right now. I don't know if I can easily do these. I took down the dank killer vid that I did because I said some things in it which I jumped the gun a bit on. I think I was basically saying, well, it's definitely a jail sentence, he's going to go to jail, and it turned out he didn't go to jail, so I'm not really happy about keeping that video up. It's like a retraction, because you say something and then later out you find out it's wrong. So I could have gone the way of leaving it up and then doing a whole video saying, oh well, actually it didn't turn out to be that way. I thought I might as well just take it down. And I took the liberalist video down. I don't know why I took. I guess I didn't want to be ratting. I guess I didn't want to be ranting on Sargon and making it seem like I'm completely against him, when in fact I'm mostly for him, but I do disagree with the activism stuff at the moment. But it could also, as I did say in my ganker, it provides some use to the world. If it becomes a political party, it would be the most sane political party in power or whatever, so maybe it's a good thing. Yeah, and that as well is about the use of the word collectivism. I was using it for ages, and then for some reason I saw a stream where Sargon was arguing with Jim, Metica and Louis Levi about the correct use of collectivism, and I realised I wasn't using it in the way that they were using it, and that kind of just knocked me for six in a way, because I'd been using it quite a lot to describe something that I thought was right, and then they came out saying, no, it's not the same as groupthink, and so it's like, it's not the same as hive mind and all that, so it's like, I stopped using it basically because I was using it wrong. So that would have been valid to keep up, I guess. It's just annoying that when you make something, when you say something on the internet, you're like, oh, here's what I want to say, it's going to be great. And you post it, and then immediately it seems that it's invalidated. And I was talking to someone else earlier this day, and it's kind of like, the same goes for posting a tweet saying you're having a nice day. Like, the act of, like, I used to be more superstitious, and I'm not superstitious now, but I see these little things every now and then. It's like little coincidences and shit where it's like, this is almost enough to make me believe in a deity. Almost. Because it's such a big coincidence. And it's like, every now and then I do bump into shit like that, like saying, like tweeting out, I'm having a really good day today, it's fucking fantastic. As soon as you tweet that, it seems like the world comes in and invalidates it for you. Like, everything reverses straight after you've said something like that. Like, you say somewhat like, I found someone who's probably going to be my best friend. And then it's the act of tweeting that or saying that online. Suddenly, like, not long after you find out something is going wrong with that friendship, or you really didn't like one of their opinions, or you reach a rough road in the friendship, all of a sudden, after you've said this definitive statement, like, I love this person so much, and then they fuck stuff up. I've had that happen a few times with... There was one friend I had, and I was like getting to the point where I thought, and this is like my best friend. And this was like 2 years ago or something, maybe more. And then as soon as I said that, she started going fucking insane. And it's like, oh, why did I fucking say that? Like, why can't I just... Why can't things I say just, you know, stay what I think of them just for a little bit longer, you know? Instead they have to go full reverse. And it's almost enough to make me go superstitious again and go, oh, you know, this stuff happens because of karma. Like, I've been struggling the past few days, and like I wanted to vlog and I just thought I couldn't vlog. I'm vlogging now, I guess. I don't know if I'll post this or not, but I guess I'm vlogging now. But I just thought I can't self-express myself right now. The views you think that you express that are really, really tame because of stuff like the Count Dankula situation, I just have this immense fear of self-expressing now, to the point where, I mean, I'm quite an introverted, quiet guy anyway, and if you suppress me beyond what I am normally, I just won't talk at all. I'll be absolutely silent most of the time, and I'll just have this chaos inside my head, inside my brain, my mind, that I'll never voice. I'll never express any of it, and that's kind of what it's like right now in my head. I have so many thoughts, and I have this incredible desire to express tons of it to someone who will listen and care. I don't know if anyone cares, but I just can't self-express because I fear that there'll be like censors or internet police going around censoring jokes, and like, we're gonna jail you for a fucking joke or like a tame ass opinion. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really centrist, so all my opinions in a way seem tame, and then in another way it seems like the world's here geared to stopping really tame opinions because they're not tame enough or something. And it's painful in a way, just like, not painful in the way like physical violence is happening or whatever, but you have this slight like mental anguish in that you get trapped inside your own head. And I have a couple friends that I really trust and can tell this stuff to, but then my larger group of friends, I censor myself and moderate myself, like my less strong friends, I guess. And I just kind of want to be the vlogger with like really tiny amount of followers. Like, I don't want tons of followers. I don't want fame. I don't want celebrity. I don't want, like, there's lots of YouTubers who I'd consider famous or like celebrity status or something, even though they'd hate saying that. And it's just because they'd have like over 1,000 followers, or in some cases over 10,000 followers, or in some cases over 100,000 followers or 1 million. And then, you know, anything over fucking what I've got, like 100 followers, seems like one of those people to me who are like internet famous or something. I guess it depends where you are on the step ladder of whatever subscribers you're on. And it's like, I don't really want tons of people following me. Because I'm someone who's always had like a really close circle, close-knit group of close friends rather than tons and tons of friends. I couldn't manage having an amount of friends over 40. I realised this when I was in uni, when I was in a room full of 40 people for one of our group classes, not our standard degree class, because I took like a film degree in Bristol, but like the larger class, which contained our film degree and the animation students and the illustration students, and I think we got lumped in with another kind of artistic bunch of students. And at that point, the amount of people in this one classroom listening to a like a season briefing was like 40 people. And I realised that I can just about memorize all the different people in this room and identify them and know something about them, or know their face or remember their face. But if the amount of people in this room grows beyond 40 people, I start forgetting. I start losing track of everyone. I start not knowing who's in this crowd. It becomes an uncountable crowd and a sea of faces, unidentifiable because of the sheer amount of people. And it's like the scale is, once it gets beyond 40 people, I think you just start to lose track of who everyone is. And then you just, in your mind, start picking just the most famous faces or something, or the most, the most about these 5 people, so those are the ones you're going to remember. All the rest, you start to kind of forget and just keep tiny details in your mind of a few of them. Like, you can't keep all, let's say there's 50 people now, you can't keep all 50 in your head, or at least I can't. Maybe someone with a really good memory or a really sharp mind can keep 50 to 100 people's faces in their head, and a detail, like an important detail that defines something about who they are and how to engage with them if you meet them. I can't do that. It's 40 people for me. It's around 40. That's all I can say. And so small circles of friends have been good for me. I keep it even smaller than that, to be honest, just for my closeness, and just, to be able to have enough time in my day and my week to divide between people so that I manage to keep close to them for extended periods of time. But being close to people, being friends with people, I'm different from a lot of people because I'm not good at meeting new people in real life because I'm an introvert. I mainly meet new people on the internet, and then a lot of them transfer into my real life. That's like how I meet people, I've never been able to transfer customers in my shop into friendships. I don't know, I'm not like an extrovert, I don't know how to do that. And so, how I meet people is meeting people online, and then we talk and we get to know each other over a period of, say, 3 months, and then I try and meet them in person, and hopefully if that goes right, then I've got a friend who I can call them a proper friend because I've met them in person. And yeah, but that's because it's based on knowing people on the internet and talking to new people online through like chats and comments and social sites of various kinds. That's been getting difficult in recent years because something about the internet has changed from how it was in, let's say, the early 2000s. I think that's when the change... it's like just before social justice and all that came in around 2009. But maybe it happened before that. People started becoming less talkative online, less able to communicate. And I put a lot of that down to the social justice warriors saying like all men are rapists and you should watch out who you talk to, and then everyone meets people on the internet these days, and I'm kind of so happy that that's commonplace because I feel like less of an outcast, being someone who did that a lot. But now I find myself in the unenviable position of not being able to talk as easily to people on the internet, because I like to keep conversations going over a long period of time and have this back and forth kind of tennis match of words in which you have fun and play along with humour, and you get to know the other person who you're talking with. And we used to have MSN Messenger and stuff, and I really liked that. For some reason, that was like the superior chat program, and I can't really get used to things like ICQ and Skype, and there's less people on them anyway. And so something about the current internet age is something happened back then, before 2009, where it was, maybe it was part of the SJWs as well, where like people were teaching a fear of strangers on the internet. They were teaching over nannying things to kids. They were teaching over wariness to people. And from my point of view, I just saw like people in general on the internet were talking to each other in a different way. And it looked like, in a way, like what we've got now, like it looks like people are talking to each other really well. And, you know, but they seem to me to be talking past each other. Like the exchanges you get on Twitter and things, they don't seem to be, I mean, at least not very often, are they actually talking to each other. They're just batting these comments back and forth that they're not really two people getting to know each other and wanting to keep a conversation going in order to, you know, eventually meet the person and be their friend and hang out with them in a permanent way. Whereas back in the 90s internet and the early 2000s internet, you could do that. I met so many people where you'd get into a conversation with them and you'd have like 2 paragraphs long walls of text for each reply, and you'd be addressing each person's point and batting the tennis ball back and forth between them and learning so much and having a laugh. And I don't know, it just seemed like people had so much more love back then for each other in that past iteration of the internet. And I don't know how to put it into words that much better than that, I guess. I guess I can't really provide evidence so well without just like posting conversations I've had. I've like screenshotted in past. I've had chat logs with people. MIRC was a good one, or just IRC was a good chat system as well. I used to mess around doing level design for Unreal Tournament. I used to have some great friends there. I keep in contact with like one of them now. And you just come on each night at a certain time and you be there for a certain set time, like 3 hours to 5 hours, and you just have this little white window open and there'd be like 5 or 6 people in the room, and you just talk every now and then, and you'd be like, hey, do you want to test my map? And you'd be working on it on your map with the chat on in the side. So every now and then you just like chat to the people who are chatting about something, and then you'd be working on your map, and then eventually you get to a stage where you want to play test your map, and you're like, hey guys, anyone want to play test my map? And they're like, sure. And you send them the file, and then they jump into your game, and you get the constructive criticism back, and then you go back to working on it to add new features and stuff, and then you're just kind of shit posting in the meantime, and that was really fun. And it seemed like there was a nice amount of care there for getting to know each other and hanging out together on this internet. And I don't see that as much these days. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong places on the internet, but I just don't see that. And even places where I did used to see that in early 2000s internet, like Facebook and DeviantArt, I don't really see shit like that these days. It's because it just seems like people in general have changed their protocols and way of engaging with each other on the internet, and they've got boundaries in their head that someone has put there that prevent people from properly connecting how they used to on the internet. I do see that big disconnect from like 2004 internet and present day internet. People are really just kind of shallowly, I don't know, they're not actually talking to each other. I don't know how to describe the way they're talking to each other right now. It seems less direct. But yeah, I just want to be that kind of semi-obscure vlogger who just has the freedom of speech and not very many followers, and just kind of posts vid after vid of just their thoughts on all walks of life, like all parts of the world that they have thought something about, you know. Throw me a subject and I'll tell you my opinion on it, or let's play a game, or I've been doing my travelogues, like I'll show you a place I've been, and then afterwards you and me can talk about what we thought of it. Another thing that used to happen in early YouTube was video responses, and these days, because of having to fight the SJW thing that came along, video responses have been like, you only post a video response to someone if you're debunking them or critiquing them, and I don't think you should only do that. I did think that was a good thing to do. Despite what people are saying about it now, I think live stream debates, even though a lot of people I watch hate them, are way more productive than street activism bullshit. And I think the debunking bad ideas by putting their video in your video and responding to each thing in sequence, I thought that was a great thing to do. Once I figured out that fair use was a thing. But, oh yes, responding to a video in the old days of YouTube, you respond to someone because you like them. You know, you respond to someone because you like what they say, and you're actually doing a back and forth chatting thing with them in video form. And YouTube itself facilitated this because it actually had a function underneath any video you posted where there'd be a panel directly underneath the video that contained video responses to you, to this video. So you've got the big video up top you've just made, and then you've got Bobby responded to this video. You've got a little video thumbnail just underneath, which is one of your friends on YouTube replying to your video. And I really like that. You've got replying to someone to debunk them and to say, I think you're wrong, and your ideas are crap for these reasons. And then you've got the old style, which doesn't really happen anymore, which is responding to someone because you like them and you want to chat to them. And I always thought that that could be expanded, you know, to... I mean, it's not like live video on Skype where you can interrupt each other in mid-thought. It's like you've got a complete package here. Here is a video It's got a start and end, maybe it's 10 minutes, just easily digestible. No one's interrupting each other. Here's my ideas, here's what I like. Someone replies with a package that can't be interrupted by this first person. They can post a video that responds to the response or whatever. And they're like little encapsulated pieces that can't be interfered with, like pieces of conversation where I suppose you could write a list of the things you want to respond to that's in that video, and then you make your chunk in response to them. And I think you can get way more understanding of each other when responding in that way. Like, it's a different format, and it's quite nice. Now, I've always kind of had this little ideal in my head, like, I've always wanted to have one of those buddies like I had in the early days of YouTube, where you'd have a video conversation with them. Like, I'd post a video and they'd post a video back on YouTube, and I'd post a video back and they'd post a video back, and then maybe the conversation would end there, but you got 5-minute, 10-minute videos. And I think a couple of people actually did that with me. I remember one girl called Anne. We were talking about Doctor Who, which I hate now, and like cyberbullying or something. And we had a back and forth. I think it was like 4 videos long or something. And I was doing like a vlog every day in April kind of thing. All the silly early YouTube kiddies were doing. I was one of them, and I did a vlog every day of this month challenge once. And I think her response was sparked by one of those, and it was really nice. It had a little conversation back and forth where we learnt something about each other, and it was friendly, not like a debunk or anything. And I kind of want like a YouTube buddy who I can just do that with, or maybe a bunch of you. Why aren't more people like that? Why aren't there a ton of people on YouTube these days where there's like a community of people who just do video responses to each other to chat? Like, that'd be so cool, I think. But we've lost that. We've lost MSN, Messenger, we've lost... I don't know if MIRC is still going, or if it's still as popular. The old ways of web design, there's a lot of things about that is far superior to the way web design is done now. Like the pre-Flash era websites. Okay, they're not aesthetically pleasing as the current websites are, but there are a lot of things design-wise that people actually took care with. And they took care to iron out the kinks in their site designs and make everything everything was a lot more accessible and easy to use in a lot of websites. Like, I've always maintained that the earliest builds of like DeviantArt and Facebook and maybe even Twitter, I think Twitter, were a lot more easy to use and what's the word? Not accessible. There's a word. Informative? No, fuck. Intuitive. They're a lot more intuitive than the current builds are in 2018. I guess I'm partially sort of pining for an older way of communicating that used to exist that I'm not sure everyone remembers. I can't tell if everyone remembers it or not. Maybe it's just me having rose-tinted glasses or something for nostalgia, as I'm sure some people would tell me I have when I talk about like the 90s and 80s media being way better than anything we had after like 2004 at the cinema or in games. Except for some exceptions like Space Engineers or Battlefield 1. And some films like Dread or... what's another good recent film? TV box set films are way better than cinema films at the moment. I don't know why that is. Like, I could easily enjoy Hannibal and Vikings and Game of Thrones, but going to the cinema these days, I just know that 95% of what I see will be complete crap. I pine for a lot of stuff from the 20th century that we don't have now. I guess a lot of pre-internet stuff, but a lot of stuff that was on just this older version of the internet that maybe I glorify in my mind, but maybe parts of it might be objectively good. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of rack my mind for like a statement or something that I could say that is like an example of something right now for me that is hard to express, because I fear what people... I either fear what people think of it. I don't know if that's a part of me that is not open to criticism or something like that, or I fear, like, apparently it's a joke crime UK government far left, you know, some outlawed fucking thing that is quite normal for people to say, but if you say it in certain places, the friggin' SJWs will try and get courts involved for some shitty reason. I'm just trying to think of one of those that is part of my personality that I can say. Like an opinion. Like a harmful opinion. The thing is, it's not just the SJWs. It's like the thing about having a sort of a weird centrist position that I do is that there are people who I consider kind of on my side, who I really like to watch the content of, like YouTube political people or whatever. I really love their stuff, but there are things that I have that I think they disagree with. And then there are things that I'd have that SJWs would disagree with. And then, you know, either side would accuse me of being either side for that. Like, I could talk about how I don't like overpopulation, and then people on my side would accuse me of being an SJW. Or I could talk about how I don't really think sex should be for having children, and then people on my side would accuse me of being like an SJW or something. And then I could say something obvious like I don't believe the patriarchy ever existed, or there's no such thing as white privilege, and then obviously you've got the SJWs jumping all over you like crazy animals. And then there's, I don't know, I could tell a joke like Dankula, or like the aforementioned harmful opinions. I hate how he keeps getting banned off all sorts of platforms, and he's pretty fucking tame to me. I mean, he's this friendly dude who goes around like live streaming himself, like trying to chat to people, and every now and then he does like an edgy joke, but he expects it to be a joke and taken humorously. And then he plays games, and I don't know, man. He gets banned off stuff. Does he get banned off stuff just because his name is Harmful Opinions? Which is a kind of ironic, because I think it's kind of a joke in itself that, like, words can be violence these days, which they can't. They absolutely fucking can't. But, you know, he makes that joke and he has it as his name, and I don't know. That whole thing that words can be violence just disturbs the fuck out of me. And there's so many places your opinions can't go. They're like off-limits talking points. And I'm still trying to rack my brain for the right sort of example for something like that. Sometimes it's something that kind of encroaches on where current laws are, that's controversial, and like some people might be up for it, but there'll be a lot of people with a good argument saying you should keep it, like copyrights. Like I don't really think copyrights are a good idea. And sometimes it might be like, if I say to people on my side, art theft is a thing, it's like really controversial, and there's these strong arguments on both sides for why, you can. I mean, like the Pepe thing, like you can, or George Lucas in Star Wars. Like, does George Lucas own Star Wars now, or do his fans own it? Like, who owns a thing like art? Who owns Pepe, the art? Does George Lucas own Star Wars, the art? And then it's like, do I own my paintings? And then, like, it's controversial because there are arguments on both sides for it, and there's a slight bit of law and control that comes into it, because I don't want people stealing my art and just reblogging it or posting it on Twitter. In fact, there's this guy who I think is participating in a few live streams with Sargon and V right now, who just straight out nicked a piece of art I did relating to the Count Dankula thing and used it as a thumbnail of one of his vids, and he didn't fucking ask me or anything. He didn't even tell me it was happening. He just did it. And I was like, dude, ask me in future if you're gonna do this. And I got no reply. I just know that this guy has done this. At the same time, it's hard for me to keep that position while I also think that Pepe should be everywhere and everyone can use Pepe for what they want, and the artist can't really shut down that flood. And when I say that George Lucas doesn't own Star Wars and he can't keep frigging editing it into 1 million special editions because the fans own Star Wars now, like, that's a really difficult thing for me to express. It's also a difficult thing for me to not compromise, not consist. See, I have this thing where I have a word in my mind and I go through all the thesaurus things and all the rhyming words and I never get to the word that I want. Consolidate. Fuck. There's a C word anyway. There's a C word for this. But how can I... Beep. C word. How can I match that belief that my art should never be stolen with and assert some, and try and think of some assertion of control for that I could impose, which is quite a left-wing thing to say, or just let it be, which would be back to the actual liberal way of saying things, and let my art just freely roam the internet, being reblogged by any person who sees it, without me like feeling like I want to rein some control on where it's going, and that something I made is out there. Things like that are really hard to express because they edge on like a law we have, and they're really controversial. Like, there's arguments on both sides for them, and sometimes I'm fighting the argument for this subject on one side, and then sometimes I realise I'm fighting the argument for the same subject on the opposing side, and I don't want to be hypocritical, but at the same time I feel passionate about both sides, even though they clash. And then there's other things that like my side would disagree with, probably. Like, I can't separate art from author. I can't do that. They say it's healthy for you to do that, and you should do that. Can you buy talking about this with someone the other day, would I buy a painting of a horse made by an Antifa, like a violent Antifa dude who'd clocked someone over the head with a fucking bike lock or something? Like, if I did not know that painting of the horse had been done by the Antifa, it's like, ignorance is bliss, I'll buy this, I'll frame this, I'll put it on my wall, and then someone comes along, suddenly tells me, oh, by the way, you know who the author of that is? They're actually, maybe they're called Ben Smith. Yeah, you know the name of the author, but hey, did you know their political views? Did you know that they're like this leftist, extremist, violent dude who thinks violence is, a political weapon and should be used as such. By the way, they painted that painting you have on your wall. I'm like, oh, fuck. I have this painting I now hate, even though I loved it before because of how it looks. Now, I've attached the author to it. But, maybe I should have been attaching the author to it all the way along, because even though the painting of the horse isn't particularly political at all, it came from the mind of this person who thinks in this way and always has believed in these, at the moment when they painted the horse, they believed in these things. So their life experience led to them painting that horse in that way that they did, that's on your wall now. And so it's a product of their imagination from their political standpoint, from their beliefs, from their life experiences. Should I have disassociated the two in the first place, or should I have always seen them as one and the same? Like, another example I like to use is H.P. Lovecraft. I think he was like I saw some documentaries, I think he was like a really racist kind of guy, or a guy who like did jokish caricatures of people he saw on the street about how he hated them and how he hated where they were from, and like they said they all looked a certain way in descriptions of them, and yet he made this amazing kind of horror fantasy world, like the Cthulhu and the all these monsters and weird arcane worlds in which like man was created by these apathetic god creatures, which is really fascinating to people, and there are only a few films that kind of portray this kind of Lovecraftian world. Prometheus is quite Lovecraftian. I've got another film, The Mist, I think it's called, which is quite Lovecraftian, and they only begin to describe this weird world that H.P. Lovecraft created that people are so fascinated with and love, And, I mean, are people taking into account that the mind that produced these amazing fantasy worlds was this racist guy all along, and that him believing these horrible things is actually what produced these artworks? And then I think about me, like, I produce art. I'm an artist. I go on my DeviantArt, as I was saying. I do these digital airbrushings of characters and dark character art and scratchy images and like hellish worlds and it's like, do I really want my art to be disassociated from me and my mind that produced it? No. I actually don't. I don't want my art to be taken out of the context of me as a person. Like who I am. I guess my identity. I don't want to say identity because I don't like identity politics, and I don't really like the notions of identity that much. But, like, I created those, and I created those as a result of what I've seen in my life and the style that I do things in. In pen, it's this kind of scratchy thing where I don't connect the lines. I've been criticised by other artists for not connecting the lines when I try and do like a figure drawing or something. And I'm just like, yeah, that's just my style. I don't really want to change that, even though it'd look more aesthetic to you or whatever. And I've seen my art evolve over the years, and it's only evolved because of where I've been and what I've done and the way I've thought about things. Like I'm only going to put colour in certain areas of the screen because of how I think it should be and how I've thought it should be over time, based on things I've seen, And to then have someone rip that away from me and go, oh, this is a thing, I like this thing. But then they hear that I'm behind it and they're like, oh, this fucking anti-SJW fucker drew this, or whatever. Or this guy, like, I love this picture of a fish, but fucking Tom did it, didn't he? Fucking Destro 7000 did this art piece. So They can go, oh, either I can't like it anymore because I hate his views, actually, or I choose to disassociate this picture of a fish from this guy. Like, I can believe this picture of a fish that I drew, because of my life experiences. I believe this is nothing to do with that guy who created that. Like, I don't like that. Like, I don't like being the disassociated author of an art piece that I created in someone else's mind. So there's lots of frigging subjects that have, like, I'm even at war with myself when I try and describe them. Because sometimes I'm fighting on both sides simultaneously of these subjects. And I find them hard to express. And yeah, there's other ones relating to art that I can think of. Seeing as I'm an artist, I might as well go into one of them, which is, to me, if I were to digipaint, again, it's so deep to go into, and you need a lot of words and a lot of thinking, or at least I do, to get it out. But if I was to paint a real person, like an image of a real person, a digipainting, slightly cartoony, because I never want to go too photorealistic, so a painty version of a real person, that painting that was originally of a real person is now no longer a painting of that person. To me, that's how I paint people. Like, it's no longer, I mean, you could say you painted that person originally, or they were the reference used to create it, but now it becomes a character, and it's not that person anymore. It literally is not. And just to say, like, if you're bringing a piece of art into a courtroom or something, and they're going, look at this painting, this painting you did is of this exact person, do you deny it? And like, well, these are shapes on a page. Like, if I moved that line slightly, that line that make that person's face, that you think the person is, if I move that slightly to the left, and like change the curve, the Bezier curve or whatever, on the cheek, and move the eyeball slightly up, it wouldn't even, you could say it looks like a completely different person suddenly. And, it was never that person anyway. It was just like collection of lines on a page. And all the lines are in certain angles to make certain shapes. But there's no intrinsic connection between a painting of someone and that someone. But then there's people who argue that if it's identifiable enough by democratic means, by a lot of different people, as the person you originally drew it of, then it is that person. But I don't think that's true. I think you would have to know the context and be told that it was that person in the first place by someone for it to even be considered as that person. And so many people look... There are so many lookalikes of one person and another person that it could be said that your drawing could be several different people, like 3 to 5 different people. It could be anyone that they've met in their life. And unless something is photorealistic, it gets even more loose as to who the person could be interpreted to be. And there's lots of different facets of this to describe. I don't think I'm going to even slightly touch on all of them. But tinting a skin colour on an image of a person, even slightly, you could be said to be making that person look like a black person. Or you could be said to be making that person look like they're in a dark shadow. And that sounds ridiculous, but literally, when you're dealing with art, there's such a broad depth and range and way of producing art, and so many different unique styles depending on the person who's doing it, that statement might be true, that you don't know whether a person has been turned into a different race, or if they've stepped into a shadow based on the artist slightly changing the colour of the skin. Obviously I don't have examples in front of me right now, but I've seen it happen on DeviantArt. Is such a great site because, I mean, people put it down, but there is a broad array of different art that people do. You have to get away from the standard noobish artist thing of just following like the hive mind of anime and reproducing styles that other people have done, and look at the really unique artists to get a real sense of how diverse in thought artists actually are, in how they think about where they put the lines and how they draw the lines and the colours and how they shade and what strokes they use. And it's because it's about art and images. To me art is about images. It's not all this fine art stuff like piling fucking furniture in the corner of a room at the Tate Gallery. For me it's about images and how you create images. We talk about like drawn art, like visual art. Obviously there's the art of music and the art of filmmaking and stuff, but I'm talking about like the visual art, like a picture. It's about how a person recreates an image or creates an image, and the choices they make in what they put in the image and how they put it in the image, and the uniqueness that flows out of them, which is how they just naturally, instinctively put a colour there or a line there. That's art to me, like that's visual art to me. And it seems to me if I say it cheaply, if I say anything in short form, like I would if I was shitposting on Twitter, or if I just didn't have enough characters to describe what I actually fucking meant, or I hadn't spent enough time like discussing it with someone, because people have to be patient to actually get the full gist of what someone's saying when they're describing something. You can't rush people, you can't interrupt people, you've got to listen to what they're fucking saying, because some complicated concepts deserve like a healthy amount of words, maybe several paragraphs, to actually explain what they're even about. And with art it's even more difficult because you're talking about fucking images, and so you need to see what kind of style the artist is doing to even know what the fuck I'm talking about. I think the most important thing to try and explain it as is that art is not a semblance of reality. I'm not going to get too much closer. I mean, obviously the original thing I was trying to say was like, if you paint a real person, if you paint an image of a real person, or you use that person as the beginning image of a reference, as a reference for the painting you're doing, then that person becomes a character, because, if you shift any of the lines or colours, or if you shift the skin tone, it could be a different race, or it could be a person in shadow. If you move the line that forms a cheek or something, it could be a completely different person. There are people who are like other people, many people who look like other people, and it could be someone completely different. Art is not a semblance of reality, so once you create art of something maybe real, it could be easily said to be a jumping off point, a stepping stone. But it's actually an expression of like a self-expression as an artist of your memories, and your thoughts, and the people, like you use that stepping off point of the person, and it's not really the person, it's the person as you knew them then, it's the person as they were on that day in the photo they took. They're never going to be like that ever again. They're never going to be in that place, in that world, in that frame of mind. They're going to be different every step away from that. So art uses some aspect of reality as a stepping off point, and then immediately becomes fiction. Immediately, it becomes a character. It becomes a non-reality. Like, it becomes art. It becomes... This is how art works, you know. It becomes... Even if you're trying to create something real, it becomes fictitious. It becomes fantasy. See, I can't click my fingers. That didn't work at all. Just like that. And that's also a really controversial point. That there are lots of arguments against, and that a lot of people want to make laws against, in the same way as photos are used in court trials and shit. You can't use a drawing in the same way as you could use a photo in like a court trial or something, as if it was like an evidence of a person having been somewhere, or having done something, or having seen someone, or having encapsulated some reality. So there's a few examples. I don't know if I got through like 3 examples there, maybe 4, of just some things that... I mean, I guess I've expressed them now if I upload this, but just some things that I'm terrified of expressing, because I just think of all the ways they could go wrong and all the ways they could be taken by all the different, especially by all the different political sides that are fighting at the moment. Like if I start, yeah, I just don't like that. Especially if you were one of the famous YouTubers with tons of followers, the hell you'd get for that. And especially, I keep saying especially and I hate it. Fucking repeating myself. As well, if you were really popular, I guess famous, or whatever you'd like to call it, YouTuber, and you just got so much of, like, a huge percentage of your followers saying bad things about your views because they disagree with them, but all poured onto you at once. I don't know how these people even, with all these followers, even survive. It's just like celebrity before the internet. You know, the famous people in Hollywood, they got the same sort of shit without there being an internet. You know, they had all the hate mail and all the people screeching at them when they go out in a public place and people noticing them, and yeah. But at the same time, I do want to express myself, and I don't want to be... I'm a quiet person, and I like being a quiet person. I like being introverted, but I don't want to be silent. I don't want to be absolutely silent. Unless I want to be, you know. The most horrible thing in the present day is just the fear that you can be imprisoned for saying something. You could have your freedom taken away, or you could have someone want to be violent to you and punch you or something if they saw you in real life, or someone, even more common, someone wants to control you and make you do things because they don't agree with your opinions and they want you to shut up. And if they can get into the law and they get into the courts and get into the governments and the lawmakers, they can make you shut up. And then of course that can be used against them too, so... But it's horribly oppressive to live under that feeling. I don't know if people realise. I mean, a lot of people who have it used against them realise, I'm sure. And I just don't know if I'll be able to express myself in a big way like this, because I feel that that intense. Maybe it's all in my mind, I don't know. Just that stopping power, you know. Here's a vlog for you. Goodbye, folks.